to say a big thank you for inviting me here, and I'd like to express my gratitude. I'd also like to acknowledge that I'm here predominantly amongst elders, and I would like to acknowledge all the elders in the room for all the good work that you've been doing to bring us to the point that we are at now, and for allowing me the honor of being able to present to you some of the ideas which I feel are coming from the future and creating the future. So I'm here to talk about nature's rights. I am the founder of an organization called Nature's Rights, and Nature's Rights is really a transformative process. It isn't just a legal process. In law, all of nature is regarded as inert, as an object. And here today we've heard so much about relationship with nature. In our legal system, our most fundamental relationship, our interconnection as beings in a world full of interconnected beings, is not acknowledged and not recognized. So this is a throwback from the Enlightenment period. In the past, science and law always moved hand in hand. When it got to the Enlightenment period, the separation from nature and the mechanistic worldview got encoded into law as other species and all of nature being an object, and the human being seen as separate to nature. And since then, as we all know, science has moved on. We not only know the radical interconnectedness of all of life, but science also acknowledges that we are 99.9% space. But where is law? It's still in the adversarial, it's still in the mechanistic, and it's still in the retributive. And so what we're bringing here is a reframing and an undoing of that. What a lot of people don't realize, we're in an ecological crisis at the moment. But this ecological crisis is actually underpinned by this legal construction of all of nature being an object, resources, property. The only relationship that is possible to have with an object is one of ownership, pretty much like it was in slavery. And so with nature's rights, what we're doing is we're reversing that root cause, which is also connected with the disconnection that human beings feel from the rest of nature, and we're reframing the legal status of nature as a subject of the law with legal personality and rights, the right to exist, to thrive, to evolve, to regenerate, just like human beings and corporations. So it's really about leveling the playing field. At the moment, it's almost as if human beings are in a vacuum, and law only deals with human beings as if we are floating in space. The whole wider frame of our existence is not really acknowledged in the legal system, and that's what we're bringing in with nature's rights. So it's not just about the rights, it's really about right relationship. And this is why we work on 3 different levels. Change the paradigm, and the paradigm is this mechanistic paradigm, the othering. Transform the system, there's no point in putting something in the legal system if it's not embedded into all of the policies and used to transform. Now, just having the legal construction changed actually gives a legal imperative for the systems to transform. And I'll explain the connection between law and economics. Because nature is an object, and we have the relationship of ownership and domination over it in our legal system, it's what makes it legal to have an economic paradigm based on infinite growth. So we can talk all we like about, let's have regenerative economic models. But as long as nature is an object, it empowers those who are fixated on growth. They have the weight of the law behind them. The same with agriculture. As long as nature is an object, it is legal to have agriculture that poisons the earth. And not just our food system, but the food system of all of the other living beings that are also dependent and interdependent upon that land. So we can talk about permaculture and regenerative farming and all these things, which are wonderful things to do, but we live in an interconnected world. And if some of us are doing permaculture, but you've got these huge big monocultures of pesticides and GMOs, and you have the weight of the law behind them, we're not really making progress as fast as we need to. So we say, instead of operating in the same way that environmental law operates at the moment, which is pretty much mechanistic, and it's also in support of the mainstream system. So environmental law is just about managing the externalities of the machine that is bringing about the destruction. It doesn't tackle the root, and the root is this objectification of nature. So with nature's rights, we're getting to the heart of it, and we're saying that something fundamental has to shift, and that is the relationship and the framing of our place within the wider community of life, and that needs to happen in the legal system. Why the legal system? Because it governs all of our relationships. The legal system governs relationships, and it's not governing the most fundamental relationship that we have, which is our relationship with the earth. And this is why we're in the mess that we're in today. So a couple of other practical things that emanate from nature being an object under the law. Firstly, we spoke about there's no relationship. Now, no relationship in law means that there's no duty of care. In common law systems, like in the UK, we have a duty of care. That means if I damage you, I have a responsibility to put you back in the condition that you were in before the damage occurred. There's no relationship with nature, so there are no such obligations. So by getting legal personality, that forms the relationship, and then saying that nature also has rights because it's comprised of living beings, it's not objects, it cements that relationship and puts responsibility around our obligations towards nature. Another practical thing that most people don't know is that because nature is an object, in environmental law, it's property. So environmental issues are usually dealt with by the planning and the administrative courts. And this is a box-ticking exercise. So usually, if a case comes up about protecting an ecosystem, the conversation that happens in court is not about protecting the ecosystem. It's about, did the decision makers check the boxes? Oh, an environmental assessment had to be done. Oh yes, one was submitted, checkbox. And so on. And very often, environmental lawyers become frustrated with the process because the conversation is so narrow, they've got to find technical arguments in order to protect life. Because to talk about protecting life is not a valid conversation that would be heard in court. So we're changing that. We're saying that the conversation is wider than technical procedural decision-making processes. The conversation really has to go a lot deeper than that. The jurisprudence needs to go a lot deeper than that. So nature's rights comes from an emerging area of jurisprudence, earth jurisprudence we call it. And at the moment, when people talk about sustainability, you talk about your three circles. You've got your people, you've got your society, and you've got the economy, people, planet, and profit. And as if they can all exist independently of each other. But what we say with earth jurisprudence and with nature's rights is imagine We have our context, which is the Earth, which of course exists within a wider context, which is the cosmos. The Earth is a subsystem of the cosmos. Human society is a subsystem of the Earth, and it's only one of a myriad of subsystems within the Earth system. And economy is a subsystem of human society. And so, correspondingly, there's a hierarchy of rights. At the moment, we only have human rights and corporate rights, and we have human rights and corporate rights fighting each other. But if you get the context of the hierarchy of rights, the rights would operate in synergy, in service of the whole. So it would not be possible to have a corporate right that undermines human rights, because without human society, corporations do not exist. It makes no sense. You couldn't have a human right that undermines the integrity of the web of life, because without the integrity of the web of life, human society cannot exist. And similarly, you could not have a corporate right that would undermine human society or the integrity of the web of life. So this, in a nutshell, is Earth jurisprudence. It brings our true relationship and our interrelationship with all of life, encoding it into law. So when we talk about nature's rights, it's not just about making a change within the existing system. We're talking about a different system of law, a system of law that can be regenerative, a system of law that can empower all of these positive solutions. If nature had rights, it would be illegal to subsidize industries that poison the earth. It would be illegal to have an economic system that is based on infinite growth. It would be illegal to get our energy in ways that undermine the resilience of the planet and to extract from the earth faster than the earth can replenish. And this forces us to be creative. This forces us to think, okay, if we can't do that, how can we do it differently? And there are so many solutions. In reality, not many people have heard about the legal piece because it's just emerging. But on the ground, there are so many people creating the solutions. What we need is the power and the weight of law behind the solutions. We need the subsidies diverted to the solutions. And that's the piece that we're bringing. We're saying that if we want to play a different game, we've got to change the rules. And the rules are all written down in law. And on a deeper level, I'll say a little bit about myself. My background, of course, is in law. I have a bit of a diverse journey. I started my career in law representing investment banks. I used to work in the City of London. And I went through a spiritual journey, and it became unbearable to be in that energy anymore, and I left. I went deeply into the spiritual path. I also come from the tradition of Advaita Vedanta, which from Shankaracharya, which you spoke about, the non-dualism or the unity consciousness, as well as spending a lot of time with masters, with indigenous leaders, with very high shamans, and I spent years touring with Amma. Some of you may have heard of Amma. She's an avatar from India who embraces people. I spent a few years living in Amma's ashram and traveling with Amma. And through that, I learned a very different way of being with law and with the world, and found that through that process of spiritual connection, I was able to bring things from the future. I was able to see beyond, the box. My paradigm shifted, my reality shifted. I could see how our thoughts are so powerful, because our thoughts do create reality. They may not create it instantly like that, which, as John said, would be a problem. But they do create it. And so when we get many people concentrated around a thought form, it has a lot of power. And this is what, in a way, has brainwashing on television, on the billboards, telling people that we need X, Y, Z. So we need to get our power behind something different. And the reason I'm working in nature's rights is not a linear process. So I went from structured finance, I, through the flow of things, ended up in public interest environmental law. I got first-hand experience of why the system of environmental law is not working and does not actually protect nature. And it's all about, just minimizing the damage. It's the parasite-host kind of relationship. Let's just keep Mother Earth, let's not kill her off, and that's environmental law. Let's just keep it at, levels where we can just sustain the development instead of sustaining life. And so, to move from the parasite relationship to the symbiotic relationship, we need something else. Nature's rights came to me through an organic process, and it came through inner guidance. And through that inner guidance, first it came as holistic law, which is about shifting the whole paradigm of law. And that means also getting out of our heads into our bodies, just as our panelist here was saying. It involves accepting that we cannot know or utilize all of our capabilities just with the rational mind, that we need to get out of the thinking processes. And so this is why I also work with a process called systemic constellations, which powerfully affects the morphic field. And Rupert Sheldrake has said this when he's experienced a systemic constellation. He said, this is morphic fields in action. So along with all of the visions that I received about, one vision that I saw, which I will share with you, was about the Earth being covered in a black web. And I've shown that this web is the law, and it's held in that particular configuration by intense thought forms. And this web needs to be infused with light. And that the key to unlocking that, the key that changes this system, is when the law has to recognize all beings, because it's not equipped for that. It opens the heart. It's about love and compassion for all beings. And so, so that's how the journey began. To give you some... What? No, not 2 minutes. Okay, just to say practically what we are doing. We introduced a draft directive to the European Parliament, and we organized a conference. If I could take 5 just to show the video, because it's so, the reactions of the MEPs in the European Parliament. It was we organized a conference there to introduce our ideas. It was co-hosted by the 2 vice chairs of the Environment Committee. We had the head of the Environment Agency giving a keynote speech, the head of the IUCN, and everybody was literally saying, we need a new system. We need to transform. What we're doing is not working, and nature's rights could be the first step on that road. We also are working in the UK at the local level. We're working with the Town Council of Frome, and in Frome, we're introducing rights for the river. So this is a kind of test case, because in the UK, local authorities can't unilaterally make laws. It has to be ratified by the central government. So at the moment, it's a bit of a long process, but at the moment we're in the process of putting in the application, and we'll see what the response is. There are people already lined up who want to get rights for the Thames. So, so that would be the next step, and also making a proposal to Michael Gove, who's calling for proposals at the moment, to do something a little bit more radical than has been done so far. The other project that we have is the Nature's Rights Zone. So we saw through Frome that it takes such a long time. 2 years we've been working to get one small, tiny bylaw in place. Okay, that seeds something in the legal system, it's good. But there must be a way of working quicker. So we've decided, if it's about seeding the thought form into the consciousness, why don't we get people, or municipalities, or organizations, landowners, to declare their land a nature's rights zone. And with that, they sign up to some basic principles of what it means, and then they submit an action plan of how they are going to be respecting nature's rights on their land. And this project we just launched very recently, and we signed up our first municipality, Civita Castellana, last month in Italy.